Hello, it's Doug Keating. Welcome to my second practice video. You may recall in the first video that I described the plan we used for our 2015 vacation to Bavaria. In this video, what I plan to do is describe what actually happened during the trip. I'm going to step day by day through our journey using photos to tell the story to include the highlights and the lowlights. Without delay, here we go. Here is a summary of the agenda for the trip. It was scheduled for 10 days in late June. It included myself, Gavin, my older son, and Riley, my younger son. Our goal was to have a lot of fun and experience as much of Bavaria as we could. The sites included a lot of Bavaria and a little bit of Austria as well. If you look at the list of cities we visited, we made a few changes from our original plan. We started in Iphofen, then went to Rothenburg, Oberammergau, Salzburg. Then we took a little of an unexpected side trip to Obersalzburg, Munich, and finished in Miltenburg. Originally, we were going to finish the trip back in Iphofen, doing a complete loop. But we decided instead to finish in Miltenburg, another lovely little town located near Frankfurt. If you look at the places we stayed overnight, it is clear that we moved around a lot. Although as expected, we did spend a few nights in the big cities, those being Salzburg and Munich. Our journey started with an overnight red-eye flight to Germany, with a connecting flight through Newark Airport. Neither Gavin nor Riley had been on an overnight flight to Europe, and as you can see in this picture, they're both excited and scared at the same time. I would love to say that they both had a great flight, but that just didn't happen. We arrived tired and hungry, especially Gavin. He's just not a big fan of airline food, and he did not sleep a wink on the airplane. After landing, we rented a car and drove to Iphofen. The original plan was that we would go to Würzburg en route, but the reality is we were tired, the weather wasn't that great, so I decided we would just go straight to Iphofen rather than make a stop on the way. Our first stop was in Iphofen. In this picture, you see the boys standing in front of the house we lived in when Gavin was born. It looks like they're having a great time. The reality is a little bit different. It was wet, cold, and they were both a little bit miserable and ready to do something else. In my head, I pictured that we were going to have a Hallmark movie moment. Gavin, isn't it wonderful? Here's the house we lived in when you were born. Whatever, Dad. We decided to move on. We checked into our hotel, the guest house in Munchen, located right inside the city walls. Gavin was really tired from the trip, so he took a nap while Riley and I explored the lovely little wine village of Iphofen. We ate lunch at Pizzeria Friuli. I know, it sounds crazy to eat our first meal at an Italian place. But I knew the owners from when I lived in the village, and they were still the same. I told them about the trip, and they acted like they remembered me after all these years. I doubt they really did, but it was a nice gesture on their part. We walked around the market square. Here you see Riley standing in front of the town fountain, which is nicely decorated for the summer. A little bit later, we ate back at the hotel. It was my intention to get the boys used to German food as quickly as possible. Little did I know they had their own plan. The next morning, we woke up early and drove to Rothenburg. You may recall from the last video that Rothenburg is a famous German city. Here's a picture of the boys in one of the most photographed locations in any German city. It's called Ploline. It's in the middle of Rothenburg, and a lot of tourists get their pictures taken there. After a few pictures, we decided to climb to the top of the Rathaus. Lots and lots of stairs, but awesome views once you get up there. Here's a photo of the boys with the city's largest church in the background. You can see the church steeples in the distance. That gives you a sense of how high up we were. Next, we decided to visit Kathy Wolfort, the Christmas store. It's famous. If you have any German Christmas decorations, they're probably from this store, if they're authentic. The inside is a winter wonderland full of all kinds of Christmas decorations. Ornaments, nutcrackers, pyramids, and Santas. Lots and lots of Santas. I was glad we were able to shop here because it gave me the opportunity to stock up on my German Christmas decorations, which of course are the best in the world. Next, we toured the Medieval Crime and Punishment Museum. This is a fascinating place full of all kinds of contraptions and various torture devices, to include a fully functioning Iron Maiden. Kinda spooky. I wasn't allowed to put the boys in the Iron Maiden. Instead, I locked them up out front in the stockyards. We also had a chance to walk the city walls. One of the great things about Rothenburg is that most of the original walls are still intact. Here's a photo of the boys standing on one of the city walls with the rest of Rothenburg in the background. Rothenburg was as great as I remembered it. We like to have a little fun while on vacation. Well, we like to have a lot of fun on vacation. In Rothenburg, we found a medieval weapons store. Yep, you heard me right, a medieval weapons store. Really good place for boys to shop. We decided to try on some helmets. You can see the boys wearing theirs, and even I got in on the action. This store had swords, daggers, knives, all kinds of funky stuff. For anybody that's still listening, especially you moms out there, if your son ever asks, "Hey Dad, is it okay if I buy a battle axe and then we just take it home in my luggage?" The answer is always no. The next day was Castle Day. We had the opportunity to visit multiple castles built by Mad King Ludwig and his father. The first castle we went to is called Hohenschwangau. It was built by Ludwig's father. He grew up in the castle as a young man. It's a great place to see, and once you spend some time here, you start to understand Ludwig's fascination with castles. Next, we toured Neuschwanstein. It's the most famous German castle, and it may even be the most famous castle in the world. It's really big and sits up high on a mountaintop. They only let you see a few rooms, but it is well worth visiting. The views from the mountaintop are amazing. Ludwig got into a lot of trouble when he built this castle. His subjects thought he was crazy, thus the nickname Mad King Ludwig. But I bet all the Bavarians are thankful for all the revenue it generates for them nowadays. Next, we drove to Lindenhof. They say it was a hunting lodge, but it's more like a small palace. To get there, you have to drive through the mountains, but it's well worth the trip. Lindenhof is probably my favorite castle of all three. In fact, though, all three castles are worth seeing, but I should caution you about a big mistake we made. I did not buy us tickets online before we visited Neuschwanstein. As a result, we waited in a really long line to get access to the castle. This delay threw our entire schedule out of whack for the day. Instead of having a nice, relaxing day seeing three beautiful castles, it was quite a trek and simply exhausting. In retrospect, I would definitely buy tickets online before visiting. Let's talk a little about the food. I think it's really enjoyable to sample foods from the regions that you're visiting. Bavaria has great food. It's hearty, tasty, and quite filling. If you're planning to lose weight or are on a diet, then Bavaria may not be the best place for you to visit. The boys took an interesting approach to food on this trip. Both of them thought they wouldn't like German food very much, so they decided to order the same thing every day: schnitzel. Schnitzel is common and found in most German restaurants. Many Americans are familiar with it. True to form, every time the waiter would come over and ask the boys what they wanted to eat, their answer was simple: schnitzel. I, on the other hand, decided to take a deep dive into Bavarian cuisine. So let's start with sauerbraten, as seen in this picture. Next, you see sausages and sauerkraut, which you expect to see in Germany, with a little bit of mustard on the side. Every afternoon, I would sample Kaffee and Kuchen, as the Germans would say, coffee and cake. Here's a raspberry cake that I ate in Rothenburg. It was delicious. The next stop on our journey was the small village of Oberammergau. Along the way, I decided we would visit the Weißkirche, or White Church. It's a pilgrimage church in the middle of nowhere. As you can see in this picture with the boys standing in front of it, the church is actually really big. I would love to show you photos from inside the church, but they don't allow cameras. What I can tell you is that this church is built in the Rococo style, and it is way, way over the top, but well worth a visit if you are in the area. We drove on to Oberammergau and had plenty of time to explore the village. As I mentioned in the last video, Oberammergau is known for wooden carving and bright buildings. They paint all the buildings in nice, bright colors. Here you see the boys standing in front of one. Another really nice surprise is that Oberammergau has a nice microbrewery. It's practically brand new, or at least it was new when we visited. What I'm showing here is a screenshot from an iPhone application I use to keep track of the beers I sample called Untapped. If you look in the middle of the screenshot, you see 3 zeros. What that means is that this beer is brand spanking new. No one has tasted it before me. It is that fresh, and I'm pleased to report it was quite tasty. I know it sounds kind of nerdy, but it's a big deal to be the first person to sample a new beer before anybody else, especially for a beer connoisseur like me. We like to have a lot of fun on our trips. One thing we were able to do is the outside activity called Rodelbahn. Rodelbahn is basically a sled that you ride down a metal track that they build on the side of a steep hill. As you can see from this photo of Gavin, there's not a lot of safety equipment required. In fact, the first thing you'll notice is that you don't wear a helmet, and these sleds actually go pretty fast. Controlling the sled is pretty simple. There are two controls. One is down by Gavin's feet. It's a stick you move back and forth to control the speed. Towards his right hand is where the brake's located. The trick when riding is that you don't want to brake too much so that you don't go too fast or too slow, but you also don't want to go down so fast that you fly off the track. Oh, by the way, you can definitely fly off the track. If you look close, you'll notice there's not really anything to keep the sled on the track. Oh, and to add to the madness, every teenager needs to create a video while they're riding the Rodelbahn. Here you see Riley with phone in his left hand while using his right hand to brake. If you look carefully, yeah, that's a cast on his right hand. Real safe, Riley, real safe. As a good father, I decided to be the guinea pig and ride the Rodelbahn myself. In fact, I went down first, just in case. I gotta admit, they're actually pretty fun, and they go pretty fast. If you do the right things, it's not too dangerous. As a result, we spent a lot of time riding the Rodelbahn, probably more than originally planned, which was fine, since our next stop was going to be Salzburg. As I mentioned in the last video, there's a lot to see. We started up on the fortress overlooking the city. Here you see the boys standing by a cannon located inside the fortress walls. From up there you can see all kinds of interesting things. Here the boys are looking down on the city through one of the windows in the fortress. Here's another photo of the boys. They're standing with Salzburg in the background. In this case, you're actually really high up, so you can see for miles and miles on a clear day. After the fortress, we walked down through the old city, across the river, into the Mirabel Gardens. The Mirabel Gardens are famous because one of the scenes in The Sound of Music was filmed here. What you see is the boys standing in the gardens, and then in the distance, up high, is the fortress. That's where we started. Of course, we should spend some time talking about the food. Let's start with Weisswurst. It's a sausage made fresh that day. It's boiled on a pot like the one you see here and served hot that way at the table. Next, more sausages. In case you haven't caught on, Germans really like sausages. Here it's served with potato salad. German potato salad is actually pretty similar to American potato salad, although it's usually served warm. And of course, you have to have some mustard on the side. Rahmschnitzel and Spätzle is next. The boys kept ordering schnitzel every day, as expected, and on occasion I would join them. In this case, I ordered Rahmschnitzel. Rahm means cream. You'll notice that the sauce here is lighter. Spätzle are special noodles the Bavarians love making and serving with a lot of their dishes. They do serve goulash as well. Here it's served with a knödel. Knödel tastes a lot like stuffing you would get at an American Thanksgiving dinner. It's just in a different shape. Here's an Austrian dish called Rösti. What the Austrians do is take a skillet, fill it with ham and potatoes, cook it, and then top it off with a fried egg. That adds a little bit more flavor to the dish. It's quite tasty. Of course, it's important that you wash all of this wonderful food down with good German, or in this case, Austrian beer. Here I'm pictured sampling a beer in the Stiegl Brewery. They have a special restaurant inside the brewery. How convenient. I was able to sample several beers and enjoy the Tyrolean decorations. You gotta love the antlers on the wall pictured behind me. The next day, we took an unplanned detour to Obersalzburg, which is located in the mountains of Bavaria. More specifically, we decided to visit Kehlstein House, or it is known in English, the Eagle's Nest. The Eagle's Nest has a unique history. It's the birthday gift from the German people to Hitler for his 50th birthday. That makes it a little bit creepy. But it's quite the gift because it's in a beautiful location way up high in the mountains. And when I say way up high, I mean it. Our rental car barely made it to the parking lot. Once you get to the parking lot, you board a special bus that has 3 brake systems. The extra brakes are installed to make sure you get up and down the mountain safely. Here you see a picture of the boys standing in the parking lot as we get ready to board the bus. The house itself is actually not that impressive. It's not that big, but the cool thing is there's a cafe up there and you get a chance to wander around the mountaintop. The boys really enjoyed exploring this area because you can see literally for miles and miles. Although the views usually don't last that long because the weather pattern's pretty wackadoodle since you're up in the clouds. We were up there for about an hour and experienced almost every season. We went from complete sunshine to rain and then to fog. We came down from the house and had a chance to visit the excellent World War II Museum as well as the tunnel complex that's located at this site. The Nazis built a really complex set of tunnels that they figured they could use at the end of the war to hide in if they were given the opportunity. Here you see the boys posing for a photo in the tunnels. This is kind of a different pose for them. I would say they're trying to act like they're kind of in a heavy metal band, and this would be their album cover. Very clever boys. Originally, Obersalzburg was not on our agenda, but I'm really glad we went. In retrospect, it was a great decision. This stop was one of the boys' favorite memories from the entire trip. The next day, we made the short drive from Salzburg to Munich. Munich's one of my favorite cities in Germany, and as you can see from the pictures on this slide, there's a lot to do. In the upper left-hand corner, we climbed one of the church steeples to take in the city skyline. In the middle, you see the boys standing in front of the famous Marktplatz. That's where the Glockenspiel is. On the right, you see the boys hamming it up as they eat some pretzels. In the lower right, we did get a chance to visit the Hofbrauhaus. This is one of the famous German beer halls. It has Oompa bands, sausages, beers, and lots of tourists from all over the world. I know it's a cheesy place to go, but quite honestly, you gotta do it if you want to get the full Bavarian cultural experience. In the middle, you see the boys standing in front of the Munich City Hall, and in the lower left corner, you see a picture of the boys shopping. I'm usually not a big fan of shopping, but Munich actually has a fair amount of decent shops. Here you see them wearing their cool sunglasses. Way cool, boys. Too cool for school. Okay, I hear you. Let's stop talking about all these sites. Let's talk about the important stuff. German beer. Munich has some of the best beer in Bavaria. Quite honestly, some of the best beer on the planet. It is a city full of breweries. Here I'm pictured in the Hofbrauhaus drinking from a Mass. That is a 1-liter pitcher. Yes, I'm wearing my Bayern Munchen jersey, and I'm enjoying a Dunkelweizen, which is a dark wheat beer. Man, did that taste good. Next, there are several beer gardens located throughout the city. If you're looking for a good place just to relax, catch up with friends, and enjoy good beer, I highly recommend beer gardens. I wish they'd catch on more here in America. You cannot talk about German beer long without wanting to talk more about German food. Here in this picture is what's called Schweinehaxen. It literally means pig knuckle, because that's what it is. Here it's served with sauerkraut and knödel. This is the quintessential Bavarian dish. I mean, you can't get more Bavarian than this. I probably should have worn lederhosen while eating it. Next, we have some sausages served with spätzle. Looking at these sausages, I'm not even sure what these ones are called. They just look yummy. And then there's Nürnberger bratwurst. You'll notice that Nürnberger brats are actually smaller and usually served about a half dozen, in this case served with potato salad. They're also great on small rolls called brötchen, kind of like a hot dog, but they taste even better. We finished up our journey in Miltenburg. Miltenburg is a great little town, a hidden gem. I've been there several times and enjoyed every visit. It's not big and is off the beaten path. It's located on the Mainz River, so some cruise ships will stop here. The main reason they visit is for the half-timbered houses located throughout the town. It is impressive how many they have for such a small town. On the left, you see the boys standing in front of several examples. Miltenburg also includes the oldest guest house in all of Germany. On the right, you see Riley standing in front of it. It's spectacular and has a wonderful atmosphere. We had a lot of fun visiting this guest house. Let's wrap up this video with some favorite memories from the trip. On the left, you see me standing in front of a sign that says, Jeden Mittwoch is Haxentag. That means every Wednesday is Schweinehaxen Day. In this town, at this restaurant, every Wednesday, Schweinehaxen is the special. I gotta confess, I love Schweinehaxen, and you just can't get it here in America. Part of the fun of traveling is experiencing different cultures for all they're worth. On the right, I'm pictured in Miltenburg. The reason I included this photo is you see the sign behind me that says hotel. This half-timbered house is actually one of the hotels we stayed in. I stumbled across it on Booking.com and definitely had a Booking.com moment when we stayed there. It was awesome. Now there's a short summary of our trip, the highlights and a few of the lowlights. We had a great time, we had a lot of fun, experienced a lot of new things, ate some new foods, saw a lot of sights, drank some good beer, drove all over Bavaria, and got a chance to soak up the culture for all that it's worth. The boys enjoyed the trip, and I really did as well. Thanks for taking time to watch this video. As always, I'm interested in your feedback and comments. Feel free to scroll down and leave a comment. Thanks, and auf Wiedersehen.